Welcome to today's story. What would you do if you discovered that the person who made your life hell for 15 years had secretly been preparing your escape all along? Today's audiobook, The Witness, tells the story of Emma, a woman trapped in an abusive marriage with no evidence, no money, and no way out. Until 3 envelopes arrive from the last person she'd ever expect to help her. This is a story about hidden strength, unexpected allies, and the moment when a victim becomes a survivor. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories like this, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our releases. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more powerful stories every week. Now, let's begin. November 2024, a 2-story colonial in Westchester County, New York. Emma Richardson stood at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables for dinner, her eyes flicking to the clock. 7 p.m. Her husband, David Richardson, would be home any minute. 15 years. 15 years of marriage had passed like water through her fingers. She'd been 23 when they met, 25 when they married. Back then, David had been charming, and his family owed money. Third-generation lawyers had seemed warm and welcoming. His mother, Catherine Richardson, had even helped plan their wedding. The first time David hit her was 6 months after their wedding. A slap across the face when she'd forgotten to pick up his dry cleaning. He'd apologized immediately, crying, blaming work stress. Emma had believed him. The second time was 3 months later. Then the times started blurring together. 15 years. 2 children, Sophie, 13, and Michael, 10. A house in a good school district. A husband who was a partner at Richardson and Associates, the law firm his grandfather had founded. On paper, Emma had everything. The front door slammed. Emma's hands froze on the knife. Emma. David's voice carried from the hallway. She could hear it already, the edge, the tightness. He'd been drinking. In the kitchen, she called out, her voice steady. Years of practice. David appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened, his face flushed. Why the hell isn't dinner ready? I texted you an hour ago that I was leaving the office. Emma glanced at her phone on the counter. No messages. But she knew better than to point that out. It'll be ready in 10 minutes. There's beer in the fridge if you. 10 minutes? David's voice rose. I work 12-hour days to pay for this house. And you can't even have dinner ready on time? David, please. The kids are upstairs doing homework. Don't tell me to be quiet in my own house. He moved closer, and Emma smelled the whiskey under the beer. Her stomach tightened. The next 5 minutes were a familiar choreography. David's escalating anger. Emma's careful responses, designed to de-escalate. It worked, mostly. He grabbed a beer and went to his study, slamming the door behind him. Emma's hands were shaking as she finished dinner. This was her life. This had been her life for 15 years. And she'd stayed because she had no proof, no money of her own. And David's family owned half the county. Who would believe her over a Richardson? Her phone buzzed. A text from Catherine, her mother-in-law, come see me tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Come alone. Don't tell David. Important. Emma stared at the message. Catherine had been cold to her for years, ever since Sophie was born. Ever since Emma had become just a housewife, instead of the career woman. Catherine had hoped her son would marry. Why would Catherine want to see her now? The next morning, Emma drove to Catherine's house in Greenwich, Connecticut. The Richardson estate was everything. Emma's house wasn't old money, tasteful, intimidating. Catherine's housekeeper let her in without a word. Catherine Richardson sat in her sunroom, looking smaller than Emma remembered. She'd had a stroke 6 months ago. The left side of her face still drooped slightly, and her left hand trembled in her lap. Sit down, Emma. Catherine's voice was quieter than it used to be but still commanding. Emma sat across from her, confused and wary. I'm dying, Catherine said bluntly. The doctors give me 3 months, maybe 6. Before I go, there are things you need to know. Things I should have told you years ago. She pushed 3 manila envelopes across the table. Each was labeled 1, 2, 3. Open the first one. Emma opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note on Catherine's stationery. This USB contains audio files. 15 years worth. I put recording devices in your house. In the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, the garage. I've been recording everything since the first year of your marriage. Emma's blood went cold. You, what? I knew what my son was. I've always known. Catherine's voice was steady, but there was something like shame in her eyes. David is his father's son. My late husband, Charles, he was the same way. For 30 years, I lived the life you're living now. The difference is, back then, there was no escape. No domestic violence laws. Divorce meant social death, especially for a Richardson. Emma couldn't speak. The room seemed to tilt. Catherine continued. I told myself I was protecting the family name. That David would be different with the right woman. But he wasn't different. He was exactly like his father. And I did nothing. Her voice cracked. I did nothing while he did to you what Charles did to me. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm dying, and I'm tired of being a coward. That USB has hundreds of hours of audio. Every threat, every instance of violence, every time he screamed at those children. Admissible in court, according to the lawyer I consulted. Emma pulled out the USB, her mind racing. 15 years of evidence. Evidence she'd never had. The second envelope, Catherine said. Emma opened it. Bank statements, account statements, spreadsheets. David has been embezzling from the firm for 7 years. His father did the same thing before him. I helped him hide it. But I kept records. Everything you need is in there. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Falsified billing records. If the New York State Bar knew about this, David would be disbarred and prosecuted. Why? Emma whispered. Why did you wait so long? Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Because I'm a coward. Because I chose the Richardson name over you. Over my grandchildren. But my stroke. It changed something. I realized I'm not going to live long enough to make excuses anymore. She pointed to the third envelope. Open it. Inside was a deed to a condo in Boston. Keys, and a cashier's check for $50,000. The condo is in your name. Has been for 2 years. I bought it and furnished it. 2 bedrooms, good school district. The check will cover 6 months of expenses while you get on your feet. I also included contact information for 3 people. A divorce attorney who specializes in domestic violence cases. A forensic accountant who can testify about David's embezzlement, and a therapist who works with abuse survivors. Emma couldn't breathe. Catherine, I don't understand. Why now? Why help me? Because I failed you for 15 years. This is the only amends I can make. Catherine reached across the table with her good hand and gripped Emma's wrist. My son is dangerous. He'll fight you. He'll use the Richardson name, the family connections, everything. But you have evidence now. Real evidence. The kind that wins court cases. What about Sophie and Michael? The recordings include instances of him screaming at them, threatening them. Any family court judge will see that he's unfit for primary custody. You'll get the kids, Emma. You'll get out. Emma looked at the 3 envelopes. 15 years of suffering, documented. Proof. Power. There's one condition, Catherine said. You have to promise me you'll actually use this. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let the Richardson name intimidate you. Promise me you'll fight. Emma thought about her daughter, Sophie, who'd started flinching whenever David raised his voice. She thought about Michael, who'd asked her last week. If all daddies yelled like that. She looked Catherine in the eye. I promise. Emma spent the next 3 weeks living a double life. By day, she was the dutiful wife. By night, after David passed out drunk, she was something else entirely. She listened to the recordings. Hours and hours of them. Catherine had been thorough. The devices had captured everything: David's screaming rages, the sound of objects breaking, Emma's quiet pleading, the children crying in their rooms. One recording from 2 years ago made her stop breathing. David's voice, slurred, "You think you can leave me? You think anyone will believe you? My family owns this town. I'll take those kids and you'll never see them again. You're nothing without me, nothing." Emma had forgotten that night. Or maybe she'd forced herself to forget. But the recording didn't lie. She met with the lawyer Catherine had recommended. Diane Chen was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with a corner office in Manhattan and a reputation for winning impossible cases. This is good, Diane said, reviewing the evidence. This is very good. The audio recordings are admissible under New York's one-party consent law. Since they were recorded in your own home, Catherine was within her rights to place the devices. What about the embezzlement evidence? That's leverage. We'll use it if we need to. But Emma, I need to be clear about something. When you file for divorce, David is going to retaliate. Men like him always do. We need to be prepared. What do you mean? I mean you need to be somewhere safe when we serve him the papers. You and the kids. The condo in Boston, can you move there without him knowing? Emma thought about it. David traveled for work regularly. He had a conference in Chicago next month, 3 days away. Yes, she said. I can do it while he's at his conference. Good. We'll serve him the papers the day before he gets back. By the time he realizes what's happening, you'll already have a restraining order in place. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma planned the escape with military precision. She contacted the children's school and explained they'd be transferring to Boston. She packed essential items slowly, hiding boxes in the back of her closet. She opened a new bank account at a different bank, depositing Catherine's check. She told no one, not her sister, not her friends. The only people who knew were Diane and Catherine. Catherine called her one evening. The older woman sounded weaker than before. Emma, I need to tell you something. David came to see me yesterday. He asked if I'd been in touch with you. Emma's heart stopped. What did you tell him? I told him no. I told him I was too sick for visitors. But Emma, he's suspicious. He asked if I'd changed my will. I think he knows something's wrong. What should I do? Move up your timeline. Don't wait for his conference. This weekend, Saturday, he has a golf outing with clients. He'll be gone all day. That's your window. Emma's hands were shaking. Catherine, I'm scared. I know. But you're also ready. You've been ready for a long time. You just needed the tools. Catherine paused. Emma, there's something else I need to tell you. I've changed my will. David doesn't know yet, but I'm leaving my personal estate to you and the children. $2 million. He'll get nothing. Catherine, he doesn't deserve it. And you'll need it. For the legal battle. For rebuilding your life. For the kids' future. It's the least I can do. After they hung up, Emma sat in her dark kitchen, processing everything. This was really happening. After 15 years, she was finally getting out. That night, David came home drunk again. He was in a foul mood, something about a client. Where's my dinner? He demanded. In the microwave. I can heat it up for you. Of course it's cold. You can't do anything right. Emma didn't respond. She'd learned that silence was often the safest option. David grabbed his plate from the microwave and slammed it on the table. My mother's not doing well. The doctors say it could be any day now. When she dies, there's going to be a lot to sort out with the estate. I'm sorry, Emma said quietly. Sorry doesn't help. You know what would help? If you'd actually support me instead of being useless all the time. Emma looked at her husband, really looked at him. The man who'd been charming 15 years ago was gone, if he'd ever really existed. In his place was someone cruel, someone who'd taken years of her life, her confidence, her safety. But not anymore. You're right, Emma said. I should be more supportive. David looked surprised. He wasn't used to easy agreement. Damn right, he muttered, and returned to his dinner. Emma went upstairs, checked on the children both asleep, and went to her closet. She pulled out her phone and texted Diane, Saturday. We move Saturday. The response came immediately, I'll have everything ready. You're doing the right thing. Emma hoped she was right. Saturday morning arrived clear and cold. David left for his golf outing at 7 a.m., complaining about the early start time. Emma waited until his car was out of sight before she moved. Kids, come downstairs. We need to talk. Sophie and Michael came down in their pajamas, confused. Emma sat them on the couch and took a deep breath. We're going on a trip today. To Boston. We're going to be living there for a while. Sophie, 13 and too perceptive, understood immediately. We're leaving Dad. Yes. Good, Sophie said simply. Michael, 10 and still hopeful, looked confused. But what about school? And my soccer team? You'll go to a new school in Boston. And they have soccer teams there too, sweetheart. Why are we leaving? Michael asked. Emma chose her words carefully. Because it's not safe here anymore. And I need to make sure you and Sophie are somewhere safe. Because of Dad, Michael said quietly. Yes. Michael nodded slowly. Okay. Can I bring my PlayStation? Emma almost laughed through her tears. Yes, baby. You can bring your PlayStation. They packed quickly. Emma had already loaded most of their belongings into a U-Haul she'd rented the day before, parked at a storage facility 2 miles away. Now they just needed clothes for the week and essential items. By 10 a.m., they were on the road to Boston. Emma's hands shook on the steering wheel for the first hour, convinced David would somehow find out, would chase them down. But her phone stayed silent. They reached the Boston condo by 2 p.m. It was perfect, clean, furnished, with bedrooms for both kids and a small office where Emma could work. Catherine had thought of everything. That evening, Emma received a text from Diane, papers served. Restraining order granted. You're officially protected. He can't contact you or come within 500 feet of you or the children. Emma showed the text to Sophie, who was helping unpack the kitchen. So we're really safe? Sophie asked. We're really safe. Sophie started crying. Emma held her daughter while she sobbed, 15 years of tension finally releasing. I was so scared, Sophie whispered. I was scared he'd hurt you. Really hurt you. I know, sweetheart. I know. But that's over now. Emma's phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. She answered cautiously. Emma. Catherine's voice was weak. Did you make it? We're in Boston. We're safe. Good. That's good. Catherine paused, breathing laboriously. David knows. The lawyer served him an hour ago. Emma, he's making threats. He called me, screaming. Said he'll destroy you in court. That you'll never see the children again. Let him try. We have evidence. There's something else. He's hired a private investigator. He's going to try to prove you're an unfit mother. He's going to throw everything he has at this. Emma felt the old fear creeping back. Then she thought about Sophie's tears, about Michael's quiet question about whether all daddies yelled. About 15 years of being small, being afraid. Catherine, I'm not backing down. I don't care what he throws at me. I have the truth on my side. Catherine's laugh was soft and approving. You sound like someone I should have been 30 years ago. Good. Don't back down. And Emma? Thank you. For what? For being braver than I was. They talked for a few more minutes before Catherine, exhausted, had to hang up. Emma stood in her new living room, in her new life, and let herself feel something she hadn't felt in 15 years' hope. The divorce hearing was scheduled for 3 months later, in Westchester County Family Court. Emma sat with Diane at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded calmly in her lap. Across the aisle, David sat with his attorney, Marcus Patterson, old family friend, expensive suit, confident smirk. David looked at Emma with pure hatred. She met his eyes steadily, refusing to look away. Judge Patricia Morrison, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair, reviewed the case files. This is a divorce petition with allegations of domestic violence and a request for full custody of 2 minor children. Mr. Patterson, you may begin. Marcus stood, buttoning his jacket. Your Honor, my client is a respected attorney and a devoted father. Mrs. Richardson's allegations are fabricated, designed to gain advantage in the divorce settlement. She has provided no credible evidence of abuse. This is simply a case of a vindictive wife trying to destroy a good man's reputation. Ms. Chen? The judge looked at Diane. Diane stood. Your Honor, we have extensive evidence of Mr. Richardson's abuse. We'd like to submit audio recordings into evidence. Objection, Marcus said immediately. How were these recordings obtained? They were recorded in the plaintiff's own home by a family member who was concerned for her safety. Under New York law, this is entirely legal. Judge Morrison considered this. I'll allow it. Let's hear the recordings. What followed was excruciating. The courtroom listened to David's voice, recorded over 15 years. Screaming, threatening, breaking things. The sound of Emma crying. The children crying. One recording, from just 2 months ago. David's voice, you're worthless. You know that? Completely worthless. I should have divorced you years ago. The only reason I keep you around is because the kids need someone to cook and clean. Emma, quietly, David, please, the children can hear. I don't care if they hear. They should know what their mother is. A pathetic, useless. Sophie's voice, muffled, Dad, stop. Stop yelling at Mom. David, go to your room, Sophie. Now. Sophie, no, you can't talk to her like that. The sound of something breaking. Sophie screaming. In the courtroom, Emma saw David's face go pale. Marcus was frantically scribbling notes. Judge Morrison's expression was stone. Is there more? Hours more, Your Honor, Diane said quietly. The judge turned to David. Mr. Richardson, do you have anything to say? David stood, his lawyer trying to pull him back down. Those recordings are taken out of context. Every couple fights. That doesn't mean, Mr. Richardson, sit down. The judge's voice could have cut glass. I've heard enough. I'm granting full physical custody to Mrs. Richardson, with supervised visitation for you pending completion of a domestic violence intervention program. You're also ordered to pay child support in the amount of $4,000 per month. Your Honor, that's, Marcus began. I'm not finished. I'm also granting Mrs. Richardson's request for a 2-year restraining order. Mr. Richardson, you are not to contact your wife except through attorneys. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. David exploded. This is bullshit. You can't do this. Do you know who my family is? 2 court officers moved toward him. Marcus grabbed his arm, speaking urgently in his ear. Emma sat perfectly still, processing what had just happened. She'd won. After 15 years, she'd finally won. Outside the courthouse, Diane hugged her. You did it. You stood up and you won. Catherine did it, Emma said quietly. She gave me the tools. No, she gave you tools, but you chose to use them. That was you. Emma's phone rang. It was Catherine's hospice nurse. Mrs. Richardson? I'm sorry to inform you that Catherine Richardson passed away this morning. She asked me to tell you something before she went. She said, tell Emma I'm proud of her. Emma stood on the courthouse steps, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief, of gratitude, of freedom. She called Sophie and Michael, who were staying with Emma's sister for the day. Mom? Sophie answered. What happened? We won, sweetheart. You and Michael are going to live with me. Your dad has to stay away from us. Sophie started crying. Really? 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 Mom, I love you. I love you too, baby. Both of you. So much. Emma hung up and looked at the courthouse behind her. 15 years of her life had been stolen. But she'd taken back control. She'd found her voice. She'd fought. And she'd won. 6 months later, Emma Richardson stood in her Boston living room, which was slowly becoming home. Sophie was thriving at her new school. Michael had made the soccer team. Emma had started taking online classes toward her degree, something she'd abandoned when she married David. On her mantel was a framed photograph of Catherine Richardson, taken years before her stroke. Beneath it, a small plaque with a quote Emma had found in Catherine's papers, "It's never too late to become who you might have been." There was a knock at the door. Emma answered it to find a woman in her 30s, nervous and tired looking. Are you Emma Richardson? The one from the news articles about the custody case? Yes. The woman's eyes filled with tears. My name is Jessica. I'm in a situation like yours was. I saw your story and I don't know where to start. Emma looked at her for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. Come in. Let's talk. As Jessica entered, Emma thought about Catherine. About second chances. About how strength isn't given, it's built, one choice at a time. The cycle of silence could end. It just took one person willing to speak. And now Emma was passing on what Catherine had given her, not just evidence or money, but something more valuable. The knowledge that escape was possible. That victims could become survivors. That survivors could become witnesses. And witnesses could change everything.